The scream that tore through the canyon was almost lost in the roar of splitting wood and the terrified shrieks of horses. Wade Harrison pulled his chestnut mare to a halt, his hand instinctively moving to the rifle strapped to his saddle as he scanned the rocky terrain ahead. The sun hung low over the Colorado mountains, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold, and somewhere in the chaos of sound and dust, someone needed help. He spurred his horse forward, rounding the bend in the narrow mountain road just as another agonized scream echoed off the canyon walls. What he saw made his blood run cold. A stagecoach lay on its side, one wheel spinning uselessly in the air, the other three crushed beneath the weight of the overturned vehicle. The horses, still tangled in their harnesses, thrashed and whinnied in panic. But it was the arm extending from beneath the carriage, fingers clawing desperately at the dirt, that sent Wade into action. He dismounted before his mare had fully stopped, his boots hitting the ground hard as he sprinted toward the wreckage. The driver lay motionless several feet away, his neck bent at an unnatural angle that told Wade everything he needed to know. But that hand, those desperately grasping fingers, meant someone was alive and trapped. "Hold on," Wade shouted, dropping to his knees beside the overturned carriage. "I am going to get you out. Please," came a woman's voice, strained and breathless. "I cannot breathe. The weight." Wade assessed the situation quickly. The carriage had to weigh nearly 1,000 pounds, maybe more with all the luggage strapped to the top. He could not lift it alone, but he might be able to lever it enough for her to crawl free. He ran back to his horse and grabbed a sturdy branch he had tied to his saddle that morning, planning to use it for firewood. Now it would serve a different purpose. "Listen to me," Wade said, positioning the branch beneath the edge of the carriage. "I am going to lift this just enough for you to pull yourself out. When I say move, you drag yourself free as fast as you can. Do you understand?" "Yes," the woman gasped. "Please hurry." Wade wedged the branch against a large rock and threw all his weight onto the makeshift lever. His muscles strained, tendons standing out on his neck as he fought against the crushing weight. The carriage shifted, rising perhaps 6 inches off the ground. "Move," he roared through gritted teeth. He heard the scrape of fabric against dirt, the frantic scrabbling of hands, and then the woman pulled herself free just as his strength gave out. The carriage crashed back down, the impact sending up a cloud of dust that made them both cough. Wade stumbled backward, his arms trembling from the exertion, and finally looked at the woman he had just saved. She lay on her side, gasping for breath, her traveling dress torn and covered in dust. Dark hair had escaped from what had once been an elegant arrangement, falling across her face in tangled waves. But when she pushed it back and looked up at him, Wade felt something shift in his chest. Her eyes were the color of amber, luminous even through the pain and fear. Her face, though smudged with dirt, held a refined beauty that spoke of wealth and privilege, yet there was something fierce in her gaze, a strength that did not match her delicate features. "Are you hurt?" Wade asked, kneeling beside her. "Can you move your legs?" She flexed her ankles, then slowly drew her knees up. "I think I am whole. Bruised, certainly, but nothing feels broken." Her voice carried the cultured accent of the East Coast, confirming his suspicions about her background. "We need to get you away from here," Wade said, glancing at the still struggling horses. "Those animals could break free any moment, and when they do, they will bolt. Can you stand?" With his help, she rose unsteadily to her feet. Wade kept his arm around her waist as she swayed, and he felt her lean into him for support. She was tall for a woman, her head coming to his shoulder, and despite the layers of skirts and petticoats, he could feel she was trembling. "The driver," she said, her voice breaking. "Is he?" "Yes," Wade said simply. "I am sorry." She closed her eyes, her face crumpling with grief. His name was Samuel. He had grandchildren waiting for him in Westcliff. Wade guided her to a flat rock and helped her sit, then returned to the panicked horses. It took him nearly 20 minutes to calm them enough to cut them free from the harness. Once loose, they galloped down the road, leaving only dust and silence behind. When Wade returned to the woman, she had regained some composure, though tears had cut clean tracks through the dust on her face. She looked up at him with those remarkable eyes and said, "Thank you. You saved my life. My name is Olivia Katherine." "Wade Harrison," he replied, removing his hat. "This is a dangerous stretch of road. What caused the accident?" Olivia's expression darkened. "A snake." It spooked the horses, and when Samuel tried to regain control, the wheel hit a rock. The carriage just tipped, and suddenly we were rolling. She shuddered at the memory. Wade studied the wreckage, noting the scattered luggage and personal effects. "Were you traveling alone?" "Yes. I was on my way to Westcliff. I have business there." She stood, brushing futilely at her ruined dress. "I suppose I will need to hire another coach, though where I will find one on this mountain, I cannot imagine." "Westcliff is my destination as well," Wade said. "I have a ranch just outside town. You can ride with me. It is not proper, I know, but these are not normal circumstances." Olivia looked at him for a long moment, and Wade felt the weight of her assessment. He knew what she saw. A man in his mid-20s, weathered by sun and work, wearing worn but clean clothing and carrying himself with the quiet confidence of someone who knew how to survive in this harsh land. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her, because she nodded. "Proper went out the window the moment I found myself trapped under a stagecoach," she said with a wry smile that transformed her face. "I accept your offer, Mr. Harrison. Just Wade is fine. Then you must call me Olivia." Wade retrieved what he could of her belongings, including a small trunk that had somehow remained intact. He strapped it to his horse alongside his own gear, then helped Olivia mount. She sat side-saddle, her torn skirts arranged as modestly as possible, and Wade swung up behind her. With one arm around her waist to keep her secure and the other holding the reins, they started down the mountain road toward Westcliff. The ride was silent at first, both of them lost in thought. Wade was acutely aware of Olivia's warmth against him, the way she fit naturally into the curve of his body. He had been alone for so long that the simple human contact stirred something he thought he had buried after Margaret's death, 2 years ago. But this was different from what he had felt for Margaret. This was immediate and intense, like lightning striking dry grass. "You said you have a ranch," Olivia said, breaking the silence. "Cattle, horses," Wade replied. "I breed and train them. It is a small operation, just me and 2 hired hands, but we are building something good." "You sound proud of it." "I am. My father always dreamed of having land, but he died before he could make it happen. When I came west from Missouri 3 years ago, I was determined to build what he could not." Olivia was quiet for a moment. "That is admirable, to honor your father's memory that way." "What brings you to Westcliff?" Wade asked. "You do not strike me as someone who belongs in a rough mining town." Olivia stiffened slightly in his arms. "I have business there, as I said, personal business." The edge in her voice warned him not to press, so Wade let the subject drop. They rode on as the sun sank lower, the temperature dropping with the fading light. He felt Olivia shiver and shifted to block more of the wind from her. "We will not make Westcliff before dark," Wade said. "There is a safe place to camp a few miles ahead, near a stream. We can shelter there for the night and ride into town at first light." He felt Olivia tense again, and he could guess her thoughts. A woman alone with a strange man in the wilderness, no matter how grateful she might be for his help, was a vulnerable position. "You will be safe," Wade added quietly. "I give you my word." Olivia relaxed slightly. "I believe you. I do not know why, but I do." They found the camping spot just as twilight painted the sky purple. It was a small clearing beside a clear stream, sheltered by tall pines and a rocky overhang that would reflect the heat of a fire. Wade helped Olivia dismount, noting the way she winced as her bruised body protested the movement. "Sit," he said, guiding her to a smooth log. "Rest while I set up camp." Olivia did not argue, which told Wade she was hurting more than she let on. He moved efficiently, years of trail experience guiding his actions. He gathered firewood, built a fire pit, and soon had flames crackling cheerfully against the gathering darkness. He unsaddled his mare and let her drink from the stream, then unpacked his bedroll and what provisions he had. "It is not much," Wade said, offering Olivia strips of dried beef and hardtack, "but it will keep you going until we reach town." Olivia accepted the food with a grateful smile. "After today, this looks like a feast." They ate in companionable silence, the fire warming them as night settled over the mountains. Wade made coffee in his battered tin pot, and when he handed Olivia a cup, their fingers brushed. The contact sent a jolt through him, and from the way her eyes widened, he knew she felt it too. "Tell me about Missouri," Olivia said, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. "What was it like growing up there?" Wade settled onto the ground, leaning back against a boulder. "Hard scrabble. My father was a blacksmith, good at his trade but never able to get ahead. My mother died when I was 12, and after that, it was just Pa and me. He taught me to work with horses, said they were honest creatures that never lied about who they were." He smiled at the memory. "When he passed, I sold everything and headed west. Colorado Territory seemed like a place where a man could build something lasting." "And have you? Built something lasting?" "I am trying. Some days it feels like I am pushing a boulder uphill, but the land is good and the horses are thriving. Another year or two and the ranch will be profitable enough to hire more help, maybe even expand." He paused, studying her face in the firelight. "What about you? Where do you come from?" Olivia looked into her coffee cup as if she might find answers there. "Boston. I grew up in a house with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, where every moment was scheduled and every action scrutinized. My father is a banker, very proper, very concerned with appearances and social standing." "That sounds suffocating." It was. Olivia's voice carried a bitterness that surprised him. "Everything I did, everything I said, had to reflect well on the family. I was educated, refined, prepared to be the perfect wife to some other banker or lawyer who would continue the endless cycle of propriety and emptiness." "But you are here instead," Wade observed. Olivia met his gaze, and in the firelight her eyes gleamed with something fierce and determined. "Yes, I am here instead." She did not elaborate, and Wade did not push. Everyone had secrets, especially people running from something. He had learned in his years out west that a person's past mattered less than their character in the present. And Olivia, for all her Eastern refinement, had shown remarkable courage today. "You should sleep," Wade said, standing. "I will take first watch." "Watch for what?" "Bears, mountain lions, men with ill intentions. The wilderness has many dangers, especially at night." Olivia paled slightly, and Wade regretted his bluntness. "But this spot is well chosen," he added quickly. "The fire and the horse will alert us to anything approaching. You will be safe." He gave her his bedroll, ignoring her protests, and fashioned a makeshift bed for himself from his saddle blanket and coat. Olivia settled into the bedroll fully clothed, using her small trunk as a pillow, and within minutes, exhaustion claimed her. Wade sat by the fire, feeding it occasionally, his rifle across his knees. But his eyes kept drifting to Olivia's sleeping form. Even covered in trail dust, her hair a tangled mess, she was beautiful. But more than that, there was something about her that drew him, a kindred spirit feeling he could not quite explain. She was running from something, and he was running towards something, but perhaps in the vast expanse of the Colorado Territory, their paths were meant to cross. The night passed slowly. Wade dozed occasionally, but some part of him remained alert, listening for any sound that did not belong. Just before dawn, Olivia stirred and sat up, blinking in confusion before remembering where she was. "You should have woken me," she said, noting the gray light of approaching sunrise. "You cannot have slept at all." "I am used to it," Wade said, though his body protested the lie. "There is water in the stream if you want to wash." "We will leave as soon as there is enough light to see the trail safely." Olivia took her small trunk and disappeared toward the stream. Wade gave her privacy while he broke camp, scattering the fire and repacking their supplies. When she returned, she had done her best to repair her appearance, her hair braided and coiled at the nape of her neck, her face clean though her dress remained beyond help. "I must look a fright," she said with a self-deprecating smile. "You look like someone who survived something terrible," Wade replied honestly. "Nothing to be ashamed of in that." They mounted up again, Wade once more acutely aware of Olivia's presence as she settled in front of him. The morning air was crisp and cold, their breath visible in white puffs as they rode down the mountain trail. As the sun climbed higher, the landscape opened up before them. Rolling hills covered in late summer grass, stands of aspen beginning to show hints of gold, and in the distance, the small town of Westcliff nestled in the wet mountain valley. Beyond the town, the Sangre de Cristo Range rose majestically, peaks still capped with snow despite the season. "It is beautiful," Olivia murmured. "I did not expect it to be so beautiful, different from Boston, completely. Everything here feels alive somehow, wild and free." She glanced back at him. "I understand why you stayed." They reached Westcliff just before noon. The town was exactly what Wade had described. Rough around the edges, a mining settlement that had grown into a small trading hub. The main street was wide and dusty, lined with wooden buildings in various states of construction and repair. A mercantile, a bank, 2 saloons, a hotel, a church, and scattered houses made up the bulk of the town. Wade rode directly to the hotel, a 2-story building with a hand-painted sign proclaiming it the Mountain View Inn. He helped Olivia dismount, once again noting her slight wince, and carried her trunk inside. The proprietor, a weathered woman named Mrs. Sullivan, took one look at Olivia's condition and clucked her tongue. "Land's sake, what happened to you, dear?" "Stagecoach accident," Wade explained. "The driver was killed. Miss Katherine here was trapped under the carriage. I brought her in from Devil's Canyon." Mrs. Sullivan's expression shifted from curiosity to horror to sympathy in rapid succession. "You poor thing. Come, I will draw you a bath and get you into a proper room." "Mr. Harrison, you did a good thing bringing her here safe." As Mrs. Sullivan bustled Olivia toward the stairs, Olivia turned back to Wade. "Thank you for everything. I do not know how to repay you." "No repayment necessary," Wade said. "Just glad I came along when I did." Their eyes met and held for a long moment, something unspoken passing between them. Then Mrs. Sullivan was pulling Olivia up the stairs, and Wade was left standing in the lobby, feeling oddly bereft. He forced himself to leave, knowing he had business in town. His first stop was the sheriff's office, where he reported the accident and the driver's death. Sheriff Tom Grafton was a fair man, competent despite his drinking habit, and he listened carefully to Wade's account. "I will ride out there this afternoon, bring Samuel's body back for proper burial," Grafton said, making notes. His daughter will want to know what happened. Terrible thing, just terrible. Wade's next stop was the mercantile, where he picked up supplies for the ranch. As he was loading sacks of grain onto his horse, Doc Pritchard approached. "Heard you brought in a woman from a stage accident," the doctor said without preamble. "She hurt, bruised, shaken up, but she said nothing felt broken. Mrs. Sullivan is looking after her at the hotel." "I will stop by and check on her anyway," Doc Pritchard said. "Better safe than sorry with injuries like that." Wade finished his errands and headed back to his ranch, a few miles outside town. The ride gave him time to think, and his thoughts kept circling back to Olivia. Her amber eyes, her fierce determination, the way she had trusted him despite every reason not to. He had not felt this pull toward anyone since Margaret, and the strength of it unnerved him. The ranch looked good in the afternoon light. The corrals he had built held a dozen horses in various stages of training, and his two hired hands, brothers named Jack and Tom Peterson, were working with a particularly spirited gray gelding. "Boss," Jack called, waving. "How did the supply run go?" "Got everything we need," Wade replied, dismounting, "but I ran into some trouble on the road." He filled them in on the accident while they helped unload the supplies. Both men grew somber at the news of Samuel's death. Everyone in the small community knew everyone else, and losses were felt deeply. "That Eastern lady," Tom said thoughtfully. "She planning to stay in Westcliff?" "Do not know," Wade admitted. "She said she had business here but would not say what." Jack exchanged a knowing look with his brother. "You sweet on her already, boss?" Wade shot him a warning glare. "I just met her yesterday." "That is not what I asked," Jack said with a grin. Wade ignored him and spent the rest of the day working with the horses, trying to lose himself in the familiar rhythm of training. But his mind kept drifting back to Olivia, wondering if she was all right, if Doc Pritchard had checked on her, if she had everything she needed. As the sun set, Wade cleaned up and made a decision. He would ride back into town tomorrow and check on her. It was the decent thing to do, he told himself, making sure someone who had been through such trauma was recovering. The fact that he found himself eager for the excuse to see her again was something he chose not to examine too closely. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Wade took extra care with his appearance, washing thoroughly and putting on his best shirt, the blue one that Margaret had once said brought out the color of his eyes. He caught Jack and Tom smirking at each other but ignored their knowing looks. The ride into Westcliff felt longer than usual, anticipation making him impatient. He tied his horse outside the hotel and entered the lobby, where Mrs. Sullivan was arranging flowers on the front desk. "Mr. Harrison," she greeted him warmly. "Come to check on Miss Katherine." "If she is receiving visitors," Wade said, suddenly feeling awkward. "I wanted to make sure she was all right." Mrs. Sullivan's smile turned knowing. "She is in room 7 upstairs. I am sure she would be happy to see you." Wade climbed the stairs, his heart beating faster than it had any right to. He knocked on the door marked with a brass number 7, and after a moment he heard Olivia's voice. "Come in." He opened the door to find Olivia standing by the window, looking out at the mountains. She had changed into a simple but elegant dress of deep green that made her amber eyes even more striking. Her hair was properly arranged, and in the light streaming through the window, she looked like something from a painting. "Wade," she said, turning with a smile that warmed him to his core. "I hoped you would come." "I wanted to make sure you were recovering," Wade said, hat in hand. "Doc Pritchard said you were mostly just bruised." "Extensively bruised," Olivia corrected with a rueful laugh. "But yes, nothing serious. I was fortunate, thanks to you." She gestured to the chair by the window. "Please sit. I was just admiring the view." Mrs. Sullivan was not exaggerating about the mountains. Wade sat, and Olivia settled onto the bed, her hands folded in her lap. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, and Wade felt that same electric connection he had felt by the campfire. "I have been thinking," Olivia said slowly, "about what you did for me, and about how I have not been entirely honest with you." Wade's stomach tightened. "You do not owe me explanations." "Perhaps not, but I want to give them anyway." Olivia took a breath as if steeling herself. "I told you I came to Westcliff on business. What I did not tell you is that I am searching for someone. My brother." Wade leaned forward, listening intently. "His name is Olivia Katherine," Olivia continued. "He came west 3 years ago against our father's wishes. Father wanted him to join the bank, to follow the path that had been laid out for him, but Oliver wanted freedom. He wanted to make his own way." Her voice softened with affection. "We were always close, Oliver and I. Twins, actually. When he left, I felt as though half of me had been torn away. He came to Westcliff, eventually. He wrote to me regularly at first, sending letters to a friend who would pass them along without my father knowing. The last letter I received was 6 months ago. He said he had found work at a mine nearby and was doing well. But then the letters stopped." Olivia's hands twisted together. "I wrote back, but my letters were returned. I tried to get information, but no one would help me, not without my father finding out." "So you came yourself," Wade said, understanding dawning. "I waited as long as I could, hoping for word. But when nothing came, I could not wait any longer. I took the money I had saved, told my father I was visiting a friend in Philadelphia, and boarded a train west." Her eyes met his, fierce and determined. "I will find Oliver, or I will at least learn what happened to him. My father can disinherit me for all I care. I will not abandon my brother." Wade felt a surge of admiration for this woman who had left everything behind to search for her twin. "Do you have any idea which mine he was working?" "The Silver Bell," he said in his last letter. "Do you know it?" Wade frowned. "I know of it. It is a few miles northeast of here, up in the mountains. But Olivia, I have to tell you, the Silver Bell has had trouble. There was a collapse last winter. Several men were killed." He watched the color drain from Olivia's face. "Was there a list of the dead names?" "I am sure there was." "The sheriff would have it, or the mine office." Olivia stood abruptly, her composure cracking. "I need to know. I have to find out if Oliver was among them." Wade rose and, acting on instinct, took her hands in his. "We will find out together. I will help you." "Why?" Olivia asked, her voice breaking. "Why would you do this for me? You barely know me." Wade looked into those amber eyes and knew he could not lie to her. "Because from the moment I saw you fighting to free yourself from that wreckage, I have not been able to stop thinking about you. Because you are brave and determined, and you crossed a continent for your brother. Because I want to help you, Olivia. Let me help you." Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks, but she did not pull away. "I am scared. What if he is dead? What if I came all this way just to learn I lost him?" "Then you will know, and you can grieve properly. But maybe he is alive. Maybe he is just working somewhere else, or maybe there is another explanation. We will not know until we look." Olivia nodded, wiping her eyes. "When can we go to the mine?" "Now, if you are up to it." "It is a hard ride, but we can be there and back before dark." "I am up to it," Olivia said firmly. "Just let me change into something more practical." Wade waited downstairs, while Olivia changed into a riding skirt and boots that Mrs. Sullivan helped her purchase from the mercantile. When she came down, Wade could see the fear in her eyes, but also the determination. Whatever they found at the Silver Bell, Olivia would face it head-on. They rode out together, and this time Olivia had her own horse, a gentle mare that Mrs. Sullivan had arranged to rent. The trail to the Silver Bell was rough, winding up into the mountains through narrow passes and across rocky streams. Wade kept a close eye on Olivia, but she handled the ride with surprising skill. "I learned to ride as a child," she explained when she caught him watching. "It was one of the few freedoms I had." The Silver Bell mine sat in a small valley, surrounded by tailings and equipment. The operation looked run down, with several buildings in disrepair and only a handful of men visible. Wade and Olivia dismounted near the main office, a squat wooden structure with a sagging porch. Inside, they found a harried-looking man bent over ledgers. He looked up as they entered, his expression shifting from annoyance to interest when he saw Olivia. "Help you?" he asked, setting down his pen. "I am looking for information about a miner who worked here," Olivia said, her voice steady despite her obvious tension. "His name is Olivia Katherine. He was here as of 6 months ago." The man's expression grew wary. "What is your interest in Katherine?" "He is my brother," Olivia said. "I have not heard from him in months. I need to know if he is all right." The man stood, and Wade noticed he was reaching for something under the desk. Wade's hand moved to his gun and the man froze. "No need for that," the man said quickly. "I am just getting the worker records." But his eyes had gone shifty, and Wade's instinct screamed that something was wrong. "Where is Olivia Katherine?" Wade asked, his voice hard. The man licked his lips nervously. "Look, I do not know anything about any Olivia Katherine. We have had lots of workers come and go. You were reaching for those records," Olivia said sharply. "Why did you stop?" "Miss, I think you should leave," the man said. "This is not a place for a lady." Wade drew his gun, not pointing it but making it clear he could. "Answer her question." "What happened to Olivia Katherine?" The office door behind them opened, and 3 rough-looking men entered. They were armed, and their faces held the hard look of men used to violence. Wade cursed inwardly but kept his expression neutral. "Problem, Jessup?" one of the men asked, his hand on his holstered gun. "These folks are looking for someone," Jessup said. "I told them we do not have any information." The lead man, a tall brute with a scar across his jaw, studied Wade and Olivia. "That is right. You should head back to town. Nothing for you here." Wade knew they were outgunned and outmaneuvered. "We will go," he said quietly to Olivia. "For now." They backed out of the office, mounted their horses, and rode away. Wade could feel eyes on them the entire time, and he did not relax until they were well down the trail. "They are hiding something," Olivia said, her voice shaking with anger and fear. "Olivia was there, I know it. Why would they not tell me?" "Because something happened that they do not want known," Wade said grimly. "We need to be smart about this. Going in with guns will get us killed. We need information first." They rode back to Westcliff in tense silence. Wade's mind raced, considering options. The mine was clearly mixed up in something illegal or at least unsavory. Men did not get that defensive unless they had something to hide. But what could it be? And what had happened to Olivia Katherine? Back in town, Wade took Olivia to the sheriff's office. Grafton listened to their account with a deepening frown. "The Silver Bell has always been trouble," the sheriff admitted, "but they stay just barely on the right side of the law. I cannot go barging in there without cause." "My brother is missing," Olivia said desperately. "Is that not cause enough?" Grafton sighed. "Miss Katherine, I am sorry, but men go missing out here all the time. They move on, change their names, start over somewhere else. Without evidence of a crime, my hands are tied." Wade could see Olivia struggling to hold back tears. He put a hand on her shoulder. "What about the list of men who died in the collapse? Can we at least see that?" Grafton pulled out a file and handed it over. Wade and Olivia scanned the list of names, but Olivia Katherine was not among them. Olivia's relief was palpable, but it only answered one question while raising a dozen more. "If he is not dead, then where is he?" Olivia asked as they left the sheriff's office. And why are the mine operators so nervous about him? I do not know, Wade said. But I know someone who might. There is a miner named Hank who drinks at the Silver Dollar Saloon. He used to work at the Silver Bell before moving to a different operation. If anyone knows the gossip, it is Hank. They found Hank exactly where Wade expected, nursing a whiskey at a corner table. He looked up as Wade approached, his weathered face breaking into a gap-toothed smile. Wade Harrison. Been a while, friend. What brings you into town 2 days running? Wade pulled up a chair and gestured for Olivia to sit. Hank, this is Miss Olivia Katherine. She is looking for her brother, Oliver, who worked at the Silver Bell about 6 months ago. You ever hear that name? Hank's smile faded. He glanced around nervously, then leaned in close. I might have. But that is dangerous territory you are poking into. Please, Olivia said, her voice urgent. He is my twin brother. I have to know what happened to him. Hank studied her for a long moment, then sighed. All right, but not here. Too many years. Meet me at the old church on the edge of town after dark, and make sure you are not followed. Wade and Olivia spent the rest of the afternoon in tense anticipation. Wade took her to a small cafe for dinner, but neither of them ate much. As darkness fell, they made their way to the abandoned church, a weathered structure at the southern edge of Westcliff. Hank was already there, a lantern casting strange shadows across his lined face. I should not be doing this, he muttered. But you seem like good people, and what they did to that boy was not right. What did they do? Olivia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Hank took a breath. Oliver Katherine was a good worker, smart too, maybe too smart. He figured out that the mine foreman was skimming profits, keeping a second set of books and pocketing the difference. When Oliver confronted him about it, they could not just let him leave. He knew too much. Wade felt cold. What did they do to him? Locked him up at first, trying to figure out what to do. But your brother was clever. He escaped about 3 months ago. Last I heard, he was hiding out somewhere in the mountains, afraid to come into town because the mine has men looking for him. Olivia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. He is alive. He is out there somewhere. Was 3 months ago. I do not know about now. Hank looked at Olivia with sympathy. The mountains are hard in winter and he had precious little to survive on. I am sorry, miss. I wish I had better news. Do you have any idea where he might be? Wade asked. Hank thought for a moment. There is an old trapper's cabin about 10 miles north of the Silver Bell up near Timber Creek. It is abandoned, but it would provide shelter. If I was on the run and needed to hide, that is where I would go. Wade squeezed Olivia's hand. We will find him. Hank stood, gathering his lantern. Be careful. The men at the Silver Bell play rough and they have got friends in town. Watch your backs. After Hank left, Olivia turned to Wade, tears streaming down her face, but these were different tears, tears of hope mixed with fear. He could still be alive. Wade, he could still be out there. Wade pulled her into his arms and she came willingly, burying her face against his chest as sobs shook her body. He held her, stroking her hair, feeling the fierce protectiveness that had been growing since the moment he pulled her from that wreckage. We will leave at first light, Wade said softly. We will search every inch of those mountains if we have to. But Olivia, you have to prepare yourself. Even if he made it to that cabin, 3 months is a long time. Winter was hard this year. Olivia pulled back, wiping her eyes. I know, but I have to try. I have come this far. Wade walked her back to the hotel, hyper-aware of every shadow, every sound. If Hank was right about the mine having men in town, they needed to be careful. At the hotel entrance, Olivia turned to him. Thank you, she said quietly, for helping me, for believing me, for just being here. Wade reached up and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. The gesture was intimate, tender, and Olivia's breath caught. "I am not going anywhere," he promised. "We are in this together now." For a moment they stood there in the darkness, the space between them charged with unspoken feelings. Wade wanted to kiss her, wanted it more than he had wanted anything in years, but he held back. Now was not the time. She was vulnerable, scared, searching for her brother. He would not take advantage of that. "Get some rest," he said instead. "Tomorrow will be a hard day." Olivia nodded and slipped inside. Wade waited until he saw the lamp light in her window before heading to his horse. He would stay at the ranch tonight, but he would not sleep much. Too many thoughts, too many plans, and at the center of it all, a woman with amber eyes who had walked into his life and turned everything upside down. The next morning, Wade arrived at the hotel before sunrise, his saddlebags packed with supplies for an extended search. He had also brought a rifle for Olivia, along with ammunition. If they were going into the mountains looking for someone the Silver Bell wanted dead, she needed to be able to defend herself. Olivia met him in the lobby, dressed in practical traveling clothes, her face set with determination. "Mrs. Sullivan fussed over her, packing food and extra blankets, her motherly instincts in full force. "You be careful up there," Mrs. Sullivan warned. "And you, Mr. Harrison, you bring this girl back safe or you will answer to me." "Yes, madam," Wade said with a small smile. They rode out into the pre-dawn darkness, following the trail north. The journey to the area near the Silver Bell took several hours, and they approached cautiously, not wanting to alert the mine's men to their presence. Once they were well past the mine, they turned northwest, following Hank's directions toward Timber Creek. The terrain grew rougher as they climbed, the trail becoming little more than a game path. Wade had to dismount several times to lead the horses through particularly difficult sections. But Olivia never complained, her focus absolute. They reached Timber Creek just after noon, a clear stream rushing down from the heights. Wade studied the landscape, looking for any sign of human habitation. Then he saw it, a thin trail of smoke rising from behind a stand of pines about a half-mile upstream. "Someone is there," he said quietly, pointing. Olivia's face went pale with hope and fear. "Could it be him? Only one way to find out, but we approach carefully. If it is not Oliver, it could be someone dangerous." They dismounted and led the horses quietly through the trees. As they drew closer, Wade could make out a small log cabin, weathered and worn but intact. Smoke indeed rose from the chimney, and through the dirty window he could see movement inside. Wade drew his rifle and motioned for Olivia to stay back, but she ignored him, moving forward until they were both at the cabin door. Wade raised his hand to knock, but before he could, Olivia called out. Oliver Katherine, are you in there?" Silence. Then the sound of something heavy being moved and the door cracked open. A man peered out, thin and bearded, his eyes wild with fear and suspicion. But those eyes, Wade noticed, were the same amber color as Olivia's. "Livy." The man croaked, as if he could not believe what he was seeing. "Is that really you, Oliver?" Olivia sobbed, pushing past Wade and throwing herself at her brother. The door opened fully, and Oliver stumbled back as Olivia embraced him. He was rail thin, his clothes hanging on his frame, but he was alive. Wade lowered his rifle and stepped back, giving the twins their moment. Oliver held his sister, tears streaming down his face. "How did you find me? How are you even here?" "I came looking for you," Olivia said, pulling back to look at him. "When your letters stopped, I could not just wait. Oliver, you look terrible. Are you hurt?" "Hungry mostly," Oliver admitted. "And scared. The Silver Bell men, they are still looking for me. I have been hiding here, living off what I can trap and forage, but it has been hard." Wade stepped forward. "Oliver, I am Wade Harrison. I helped your sister get here. We know about the Silver Bell, about what you discovered. You are safe now." Oliver looked at Wade with a mixture of gratitude and wariness. "Safe? As long as those men are out there, I will never be safe. They tried to kill me once. They will try again." "Then we go to the law," Wade said. "We get you somewhere secure and bring in the territorial marshal. What you know about their operation, that is evidence of a crime." Oliver shook his head. "You do not understand. The mine foreman, Jessup, he has people paid off. The law will not help." "Not the local law, maybe," Wade conceded, "but the territorial marshal answers to Denver. We get your testimony to him and he will have to act." Olivia took her brother's hand. "Please, Oliver, we cannot stay up here. You need proper food and care. Let us try." Oliver looked between his sister and Wade and finally nodded. "All right. I trust you, Livy. If you say this man can help, I believe you." They gathered what few possessions Oliver had and started back down the mountain. Oliver was weak from months of poor nutrition, so they moved slowly, stopping frequently to rest. As they rode, Oliver told them more about what he had discovered at the Silver Bell. "It was not just skimming profits," Oliver explained. "Jessup was running a full fraud operation. The mine was producing less silver than the company books showed, and Jessup was pocketing the difference by selling ore on the side and cooking the numbers. When I found the second ledger, I was fool enough to confront him directly. I thought if I gave him a chance to make it right, he would take it. Instead, he had his men grab me." "How did you escape?" Wade asked. Oliver smiled grimly. "They locked me in a storage shed, planning to decide what to do with me, but the lock was old and I managed to break it. I ran into the mountains and have been hiding ever since. I tried to get to town once, about a month ago, but I saw Jessup's men and had to turn back. I have been too scared to try again." "You do not have to be scared anymore," Olivia said fiercely. "We are going to fix this." They made camp that night in a sheltered valley, miles from both the Silver Bell and Westcliff. Wade built a fire while Olivia fussed over her brother, making sure he ate slowly so his shrunken stomach would not rebel. Watching them together, seeing the obvious love and care between the twins, made Wade think of his own father and the bond they had shared. After Oliver fell into an exhausted sleep, Olivia joined Wade by the fire. She sat close enough that their shoulders touched, and Wade felt the warmth of her presence like a physical thing. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything. I could not have done this without you." "You would have found a way," Wade replied. "You are the most determined person I have ever met." Olivia smiled, but it faded quickly. "I am scared, Wade. What if the marshal will not help? What if Jessup's reach is longer than we think?" Wade took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "Then we will figure something else out. But Olivia, you found your brother alive against all odds. That takes remarkable courage and no small amount of luck. Trust that a little longer." Olivia leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire. Wade was acutely aware of every point where their bodies touched, the way her hair smelled of pine and wood smoke, the soft sound of her breathing. He was falling for her, had been since that first moment in the canyon, and the feeling was both terrifying and exhilarating. "When this is over," Olivia said quietly, "when Oliver is safe and the Silver Bell men are dealt with, what happens then?" Wade understood what she was really asking. "What do you want to happen?" Olivia lifted her head to look at him, her amber eyes reflecting the firelight. "I do not want to go back to Boston. I do not want to return to a life of empty propriety and suffocating expectations. I want to stay here in this wild, beautiful place. I want to build something real." "With your brother?" Wade asked, though his heart was hammering. "With my brother," Olivia agreed. "And maybe with someone else too, if he would have me." Wade reached up and cupped her face gently. "Olivia, I know we have not known each other long, less than a week really, but I have never felt this way about anyone. You walked into my life trapped under a stagecoach, and somehow you turned my whole world upside down. If you are asking what I think you are asking, then yes. Yes, I would like nothing more than for you to stay." Olivia's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "I am asking. Wade Harrison, I am asking if you could see a future with me. Because I can see one with you, and it is the first future I have ever wanted." Wade kissed her then, unable to hold back any longer. It was a gentle kiss at first, tentative and sweet, but it deepened as Olivia responded, her hands coming up to tangle in his hair. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "I can see that future too," Wade said, "clear as day." They stayed up late into the night, talking about dreams and possibilities. Olivia told him about her childhood in Boston, the endless social events that felt hollow, the constant pressure to be someone she was not. Wade told her about building his ranch from nothing, the satisfaction of working with horses, the peace he had found in the mountains. "I always wanted to help people," Olivia confessed. "In Boston, I would volunteer at the hospital when I could slip away. I loved the feeling of being useful, of making a difference, but it was considered unsuitable for a woman of my station." "Out here, nobody cares about stations," Wade said. "Westcliff could use someone with medical knowledge. Doc Pritchard is getting on in years and could use an assistant." Olivia's face lit up. "Do you think he would teach me? I know I am not formally trained, but I am willing to learn. I think he would be thrilled. And Olivia, you could be whoever you want to be here. That is the beauty of the West. People come here to reinvent themselves, to escape the constraints of the East. You could build the life you want." The next morning, they continued toward Westcliff with renewed purpose. Oliver was looking better already, the food and rest beginning to restore his strength. As they rode, Wade formulated a plan. "We will not go directly into town," he said. "First, we stop at my ranch. Oliver can rest there while I ride to the telegraph office and send a message to the territorial marshal in Denver. Once I have confirmation he is coming, we will bring Oliver into town and put him somewhere safe until the marshal arrives." "Will your men be all right with harboring a fugitive?" Olivia asked worriedly. Wade smiled. "Jack and Tom are good men, and Oliver is not a fugitive. He is a witness to a crime. There is a difference." They reached Wade's ranch by mid-afternoon. Jack and Tom looked surprised to see Wade returning with 2 people instead of 1, but they asked no questions, simply helped get Oliver settled in the bunkhouse with food and a real bed. Wade immediately rode back to town and sent the telegram to Denver, explaining the situation in terse but clear language. The return message came within an hour. The marshal would arrive in 3 days. Wade felt relief wash over him. 3 days. They just had to keep Oliver safe for 3 days. He returned to the ranch to find Olivia helping Oliver wash up, their heads bent together in conversation. The sight of them made Wade smile. They looked alike, those twins, with the same amber eyes and dark hair, the same determined set to their jaws. Over dinner that night, the 5 of them sat around Wade's table, and Oliver told Jack and Tom the full story. Both men grew angry as they learned what the Silver Bell had done. "That is not right," Jack said, his usually cheerful face dark with fury. "A man tries to do the right thing and they try to kill him for it. Happens more than you would think," Tom observed grimly. "Greed makes men do terrible things. The marshal will set it right," Wade said firmly. 3 days and this will all be over, but 3 days proved to be a long time. On the second night, as Wade was checking the horses before bed, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. Fresh hoof prints leading up to the edge of his property. Several sets, and they had been watching. He could see where horses had stood for a long time, the ground churned up by restless hooves. Wade woke Jack and Tom quietly. "We have had visitors. Someone was watching the ranch tonight." The brothers exchanged grim looks. "Think it is the Silver Bell men?" Jack asked. "Who else would it be?" "They must have found out Oliver is here." Wade's mind raced. "We need to move him. If they come in force, we cannot hold them off." "Where would we take him?" Tom asked. Wade thought quickly. "The church. The real church, not the abandoned one. Reverend Matthews would give us sanctuary, and even Jessup's men would think twice about violating a church." They woke Oliver and Olivia and explained the situation. Within an hour, they were riding through the darkness toward Westcliff, moving fast and quiet. Wade kept watch behind them, but he saw no signs of pursuit. Either they had slipped away unnoticed, or the watchers had not expected them to move so quickly. Reverend Matthews was a lean man in his 50s with kind eyes and a backbone of steel. When Wade explained the situation, he did not hesitate. "Of course he can stay here," the Reverend said. "This is God's house and all are welcome. I would like to see those Silver Bell ruffians try to break sanctuary." Oliver and Olivia were settled in a small room behind the church, and Wade positioned Jack and Tom outside to keep watch. He himself planned to stay inside with the twins, his rifle close at hand. As dawn broke, Wade stood at the church window, looking out at the quiet street. Beside him, Olivia appeared, her hair loose around her shoulders. "Could you not sleep either?" she asked softly. "Too much on my mind," Wade admitted. "One more day and the marshal arrives. We just have to make it one more day." Olivia slipped her hand into his. We have come this far." Wade pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. He had come to crave these moments, the simple comfort of holding her, feeling her heart beat against his. In just a few days, this woman had become essential to him in a way he could not fully explain. "When this is over," Wade said quietly, "when Oliver is safe and the Silver Bell is dealt with, I want to court you properly. Dinners and dances and all the things a lady deserves." Olivia laughed softly. "I do not need dinners and dances, I just need you." "You will have me," Wade promised, "for as long as you want me." "How about forever?" Olivia asked, tilting her face up to look at him. Wade kissed her, a long, sweet kiss that held all the promise of the future they were building together. When they broke apart, both were smiling. The day passed with agonizing slowness. Reverend Matthews brought them food and water, and Oliver spent much of the time writing out a detailed account of everything he had witnessed at the Silver Bell. His testimony, along with the ledger he had managed to hide before his escape, would be more than enough to bring charges. "I buried the ledger near the cabin," Oliver explained. "I can take the marshal right to it." As evening fell, Wade's tension increased. This was when an attack would come under cover of darkness. He positioned himself where he could see both the front and side entrances to the church, his rifle loaded and ready. The attack came just after midnight. 6 men on horseback rode up to the church, and Wade recognized Jessup among them. They did not try to be subtle. "Send out Olivia Katherine," Jessup shouted. "This does not concern anyone else. Just give us the boy and we will leave peacefully." Reverend Matthews appeared at the church door, lantern in hand. "This is a house of God and I will not allow violence here. Leave now or face the consequences." Jessup laughed. "What consequences, preacher? You going to pray at us?" "No," came a new voice, "but I might shoot at you." Sheriff Grafton emerged from the shadows, gun drawn, with 3 deputized townsmen beside him. Wade felt a surge of relief. The sheriff must have noticed the Silver Bell men entering town and put together what was happening. "This is not your business, Grafton," Jessup snarled. "When armed men threaten a church in my town, it becomes my business," Grafton said calmly. Now you can leave peacefully, or I can arrest the lot of you for disturbing the peace. Your choice." For a tense moment, Wade thought Jessup might try something stupid. His hand was on his gun, his face twisted with rage. But finally, common sense prevailed. He was outnumbered and outgunned, at least for now. "This is not over," Jessup said, wheeling his horse around. "Not by a long shot." The Silver Bell men rode off into the night, leaving a cloud of dust and the echo of hoofbeats. Sheriff Grafton approached the church, holstering his weapon. "Figured something was up when I saw them riding in," he said to Wade. "Glad I was right." "Thank you," Wade said sincerely. "That could have gone badly." Grafton nodded. "The marshal arrives tomorrow on the noon stage. Keep the boy hidden until then, and we will finish this right." True to Grafton's word, the territorial marshal arrived the next day. Marshal James Keller was a stocky man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He listened to Oliver's testimony, examined the ledger once Oliver led a recovery party to retrieve it, and within hours had issued warrants for the arrest of Jessup and 3 other Silver Bell employees. The arrests went smoothly. Faced with undeniable evidence and a federal marshal, Jessup and his men surrendered without a fight. The Silver Bell mine would be shut down pending a full investigation, and criminal charges would be filed against everyone involved in the fraud. Oliver stood in the sheriff's office, watching through the window as Jessup was led away in chains. Olivia stood beside her brother, her hand on his shoulder. "It is really over," Oliver said, as if he could not quite believe it. "It is over," Marshal Keller confirmed. "You did a brave thing, son, exposing this corruption. The territory needs more men like you." Wade watched from across the room as Oliver seemed to stand a little taller. The young man had been through hell, but he had survived, and now he had the chance to build a new life, just like his sister. With the danger past, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Oliver, still recovering his strength, took a job at the Mercantile, learning the business from old Mr. Henderson. The work was honest and steady, and for the first time in months Oliver could sleep without fear. Olivia, true to her desire, approached Doc Pritchard about learning medicine. The old doctor was delighted to have an eager student, especially one with Olivia's natural compassion and quick mind. She spent her days at his side, learning to set bones, stitch wounds, and mix medicines. The townspeople, initially skeptical of a woman practicing medicine, soon came to appreciate her gentle touch and genuine care. And Wade courted Olivia with a single-minded determination that made her laugh and blush in equal measure. He brought her wildflowers from the mountain meadows, took her riding through the beautiful valleys, and sat with her in the evenings, talking about everything and nothing. Their love grew steadily, deepening with each passing day. 3 months after the Silver Bell arrests, on a crisp autumn morning with the aspens blazing gold, Wade asked Olivia to marry him. They were at his favorite spot on the ranch, a high meadow with a view of the Sangre de Cristo Range, and the world seemed to hold its breath as he dropped to one knee. "Olivia Katherine, you came into my life like a storm, fierce and unexpected," Wade said, holding her hands. "You have turned my world upside down in the best possible way. I cannot imagine my future without you in it. Will you marry me?" Olivia was crying and smiling at the same time. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." The wedding took place 6 weeks later in the same church that had sheltered Oliver. Reverend Matthews officiated, beaming with joy as he joined together the cowboy and the Boston lady who had found each other against all odds. Oliver walked his sister down the aisle, tears streaming openly down his face, and placed her hand in Wade's with a whispered, "Take care of her." "With my life," Wade promised. The reception was held at the hotel, with the whole town turning out to celebrate. Mrs. Sullivan had outdone herself with the food, and someone had brought a fiddle, filling the evening with music and dancing. Wade held Olivia in his arms as they swayed to a slow waltz, and he felt complete in a way he never had before. "Happy?" he asked, looking down at his new wife. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Olivia replied, her amber eyes shining. "I came west searching for my brother, and I found so much more. I found a home, I found purpose, I found love." "We both did," Wade said, pulling her closer. They spent their wedding night at the ranch, in the house that would now be their shared home. Wade had spent weeks preparing, adding rooms and making improvements, wanting everything to be perfect for Olivia. As they lay together afterward, tangled in sheets in each other, Wade traced patterns on Olivia's shoulder and marveled at the path that had led them here. "What are you thinking?" Olivia asked drowsily. "That I am the luckiest man alive," Wade replied. "That everything I lost when I left Missouri, I have found again here with you. Purpose, family, love, everything." Olivia propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at him. "I love you, Wade Harrison. I did not plan to fall in love when I came west. I was focused entirely on finding Oliver. But there you were, pulling me from that wreckage, and somehow you pulled me into a whole new life." "I love you too," Wade said, drawing her down for a kiss. "And I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing to stay." The first year of their marriage was filled with joy and hard work. The ranch prospered under Wade's careful management, and with Olivia's help with the bookkeeping and Oliver's occasional assistance, they were able to expand the operation. They bought more breeding stock and hired 2 additional hands to help Jack and Tom. Olivia continued her medical studies with Doc Pritchard, and when a fever swept through the town that winter, she worked tirelessly alongside the old doctor, caring for the sick. Her compassion and skill saved several lives, and after that, no one in Westcliff questioned a woman's ability to practice medicine. Oliver flourished as well. He proved to have a natural head for business, and Mr. Henderson began grooming him to eventually take over the mercantile. More importantly, Oliver began courting Sarah, the schoolteacher, a gentle young woman with a quick smile and a love of books. When Oliver shyly asked Wade's advice about proposing, Wade felt a surge of affection for his brother-by-law. "Just speak from your heart," Wade advised. "Tell her what she means to you. If she loves you, the rest will follow." Oliver and Sarah's wedding took place the following spring, a smaller affair than Wade and Olivia's, but no less joyful. Watching Oliver pledge his life to Sarah, Wade squeezed Olivia's hand, remembering their own vows. "Look at what we have built," Olivia whispered. "A family, a community, a real life. Sometimes I can hardly believe it." "Believe it," Wade said. "This is all real, and it is all ours." That summer, Olivia discovered she was pregnant. Wade's joy was tempered with worry, knowing the dangers of childbirth on the frontier, but Olivia was calm and confident. "I have Doc Pritchard, I have you, and I have my own knowledge," she said, placing Wade's hand on her still flat stomach. "Our child will be fine." The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though Wade drove everyone crazy with his overprotective hovering. Olivia bore it with good humor, knowing it came from love. As her belly swelled, Wade would spend evenings with his hand on her stomach, feeling their child move and kick. "Strong," he would say with pride, "just like the mother." "Stubborn too," Olivia would reply, "just like the father." Their son was born on a cold February morning in 1875, entering the world with a lusty cry that announced his presence to everyone within earshot. Wade held the tiny, red-faced bundle and felt tears stream down his face. "He is perfect," Wade whispered. "Absolutely perfect." They named him William Henry Harrison after Wade's father, and the boy became the joy of their lives. Wade proved to be a devoted father, rising for midnight feedings and walking the floor with William when he was fussy. Olivia would watch them together, her heart full to bursting with love for her husband and son. Oliver and Sarah had their first child 6 months later, a daughter they named Grace. The cousins would grow up together, as close as siblings, running wild on the ranch and in town. As the years passed, the Harrison Ranch became one of the most successful in the region. Wade's horses were known for their quality and temperament, sought after by ranchers and cavalry officers alike. Olivia, working alongside Doc Pritchard, became the primary medical provider for Westcliff and the surrounding area. When Doc Pritchard passed peacefully in his sleep in 1878, Olivia took over his practice completely, the first woman doctor in that part of Colorado. They had 2 more children, daughters they named Margaret Rose, after Wade's mother, and Lily Ann. The ranch house expanded to accommodate their growing family, and Wade built a separate clinic building in town for Olivia's practice. Oliver and Sarah eventually took over the mercantile and had 3 more children. The 2 families remained close, Sunday dinners a cherished tradition where the cousins would play while the adults talked and laughed. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Wade and Olivia rode back to the place where they had first met, the canyon where the stagecoach had overturned. A small wooden cross marked the spot where Samuel the driver had died, maintained by his family. Wade and Olivia stood there for a long moment, hand in hand. If someone had told me that day that the woman I pulled from that wreckage would become my whole world, I would not have believed them, Wade said. I knew, Olivia replied with a smile. Maybe not right then when I was terrified and in pain. But that night by the campfire when you gave me your bedroll and promised I would be safe, something in me recognized you, recognized that you were going to be important. Wade pulled her close. Best rescue I ever made. Best decision I ever made coming west, Olivia countered. I came searching for Oliver, but I found you. I found home. They kissed there in the place where their story began, the Colorado sun warm on their backs and the whole of their life stretching out before them. The years continued to be kind to the Harrisons. William grew into a strong, capable young man who loved working with horses as much as his father did. He would eventually take over the ranch, marrying a rancher's daughter and giving Wade and Olivia their first grandchildren. Margaret Rose inherited her mother's compassion and intelligence, studying medicine in Denver before returning to Westcliff to work alongside Olivia in the clinic. Mother and daughter made a formidable team, expanding medical services to include a small hospital. Lily Ann was the wild child, fearless and adventurous, who scandalized the town by becoming a surveyor and spending her days mapping the mountains she loved. She never married, content with her independence and her work. Oliver's mercantile became the largest general store in the region, and his children all found success in various trades and professions. The bond between the Harrison and Katherine families remained strong through all the years, a testament to the love that had brought them together. As Wade and Olivia grew older, they would sit on the porch of their ranch house in the evenings, watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and crimson. Their hands, now lined and weathered but still strong, would be clasped together, just as they had been for decades. "Do you ever regret it?" Wade asked one evening when they were both in their 60s. "Leaving Boston, giving up that life of privilege," Olivia laughed, the sound still bright and joyful. "Not for a single moment. That life was never really mine. This life, this wild, wonderful, difficult, beautiful life with you, this is what I was always meant for." Wade raised her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "I love you, Olivia Harrison, More today than yesterday, less than tomorrow. And I love you, Wade Harrison. My rescuer, my partner, my heart. They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to appear, one by one, in the darkening sky. Around them, their ranch hummed with life. Horses in the corrals, dogs sleeping on the porch, lights beginning to glow in the bunkhouse where the hands were settling in for the night. In town, their daughter was closing up the clinic. Their son was likely checking on the breeding mares one last time, and their grandchildren were being tucked into bed with stories of the Wild West. It was a good life, a full life, built on a foundation of love and courage. Built from the moment a cowboy stopped to help a woman trapped under a wrecked stagecoach and found his whole future in the process. Years later, when Wade passed peacefully at the age of 78, Olivia was holding his hand, just as she had been holding it for more than 50 years. His last words were her name, spoken with all the love he had carried for her since that first day. Olivia lived another 5 years, surrounded by children and grandchildren, still practicing medicine almost to the end. On the day she died, she was holding a photograph of Wade, and her last words were a whispered, "I am coming, my love." They were buried side by side on a hill overlooking the ranch, their headstones simple but inscribed with everything that mattered. Wade Harrison, 1848–1926, beloved husband, father, grandfather Olivia Katherine Harrison, 1850–1931, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, healer below in smaller letters, an epitaph chosen by their children, two souls who found each other in the wilderness and built a love that lasted forever. And on summer evenings, when the wind blows just right across the Colorado mountains, the people of Westcliff still tell the story of the cowboy who rescued a woman from a collapsed carriage, and how what she revealed later, her incredible courage and determination to find her brother, led them both to a love that became the stuff of legend. A love that started with a rescue and became a romance that shaped a family, a community, and a legacy that would endure for generations to come.